So I am Kelly Clark. I'm a doctor of physical therapy in private practice at Patient PT in Bloomington, Indiana. And this video is the second in a series of 5 called the Top 5 Most Prescribed. So the Top 5 Most Prescribed is a video series about the exercises that I most frequently prescribe as part of my physical therapy and wellness care practice here at Patient PT. So there are a few exercises that are just a little bit more versatile than others. And in the first video in this series, we covered short foots, okay? So short foots are a motion where you essentially set your foot flat on the floor and try to push the ball of your foot and the heel of your foot a little closer together to create a higher arch. So short foots have been really well validated in research to improve what's called intrinsic foot strength. So that means the muscles that are inside your foot get stronger. And that's really important for creating a stable base of support. So that was discussed in the first video. Today, we are going to move up just a little bit and focus on the heel raise, okay? So the heel raise is just what it sounds like, okay? It's pushing the ball of your foot down into the ground to raise up onto that ball of your foot and have that heel up into the air and then slowly lower back down. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share just to give you all an idea of all the different variations on heel raises there are. So these right here that are across the top middle are a series that I prescribe really frequently. This is what I call the heel raise 3-way. So there is a neutral position where your toes are pointed straight forward. There is a second position where your toes are pointed in. And there's a third position where your toes are pointed out. And each of those 3 variations will emphasize muscles in a different position on your leg, okay? So for example, if you're doing toes in and raising up like that, that has a tendency to work the muscles on the back outside of your calf and on the inside of your shin, okay? Other variations, you can see that there are seated or wheelchair versions of the heel raise. If for whatever reason you cannot stand up to accomplish a heel raise, you can alternate toe lifts and heel raises from a seated position. You can also do single side heel raises where you are only leading weight on one side from either that seated position or from a standing position if you are able to and don't need to reduce your weight bearing on one side. This is an exercise that a lot of times is assigned to folks who have just fractured or sprained an ankle and they can't do active movement quite yet. So those are just a few of the variations. Putting a ball in between your ankles can emphasize a different set of muscles, as can putting a band around your ankle so that you have to press out and keep the band taut. So really a versatile exercise, lots of variations for different goals and different levels of functionality that people have, okay? So we all move a little bit differently. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And one of the reasons that I like the heel raise so much is because not only is it something that is really good to add to people's home exercise programs sometimes, it also is really good for diagnosing some problems with ankle and even occasionally knee. So if I watch somebody perform a heel raise from behind, there are some muscles that will make it so when the person raises up into a heel raise, they are getting a little bit of a tilt on their calcaneus, that heel bone, or they're not. They have more of a flat-footed raise, okay? So a lot of people might assume that when you raise your heel up, it's actually supposed to be flat when it goes up. But the better position is actually for it to be just a little bit tilted like this, okay? And the reason for that is because the way that your foot is made, there are so many different bones and joints in there, the way that it fits together, that if you have a little bit of a tilt, that means that these 2 major bones in your ankle, the top one is called the talus, and this bottom one is called the calcaneus, are moving together really well with the tibia, the bigger bone, and the fibula in your lower leg. Okay, so you can see how the 2 of those kind of sit on top of the talus like a little saddle. And if the talus isn't moving correctly, that means there's not going to be any tilt in that ankle. And that also means that every time you take a step, whether you're running or walking, you are potentially going to have a little bit of a movement dysfunction. All movement dysfunction is a movement that is not being performed in an ideal way, okay? So ideal, all that really means is in the sort of alignment that it was intended to move in. So One of the things that make my job really hard is there are a whole bunch of different muscles that connect to every single joint. And a lot of times when a person has pain, it could be any one of those muscles or more often a combination of a whole bunch of different muscles. That's why the heel raise is so versatile, because it can actually engage a whole lot of muscles all at the same time. So laying across the front of your shin here, you've got a big muscle called the tibialis anterior that's mostly in charge of this motion. And so you can actually accomplish the vast majority of the difficulty in this just between that and these calf muscles on the back, also known as gastrocnemius and soleus. But there are also smaller muscles like flexor digitorum and extensor digitorum that control the flexion and extension of your toes, whether they come back or forward. And all of those things really work together very well in a smoothly executed heel raise. So besides just the tilt of your heel when you are executing a heel raise, I also like to take a look at whether or not you can execute that movement really smoothly and slowly on both the trip up and the descent back down. And also whether or not you can do a single-sided heel raise on both sides, or whether one side is less steady than the other one. I actually happen to have a little bit of a sore ankle on my left side here. So you can probably see I couldn't actually come up very high on that side. That's another variation that I know when I have people do heel raises here in the office. So when you do heel raises at home, you're working the calf muscles, you're working the shin muscles, but you're also working a lot of these ankle stabilizers that control whether your foot moves out to the side or in like this. And that becomes especially important for good foot motion while you're walking and running. So that is just a few reasons why I really like heel raises. But one of the things that is the best about heel raises is you can actually combine a heel raise with another really excellent exercise called toe spreading, okay? So the #1 video that was on short foots was actually almost a toe spread video. Research has shown that toe spreading and short foots both get really great results as far as improving intrinsic foot strength. And I just happen to choose short foots because they are a type of exercise that you can't really easily strengthen some of those arch muscles with other things. Whereas with toe spreads, though those are also excellent, you can combine them with certain other exercises, including heel raises. So if you spread your toes out before you start doing the heel raise, it'll actually give you a larger base of support and even more stability as you are coming up into this position that it's a little harder to maintain because it's engaging so many different muscles. So when you think about it, if some of this doesn't totally make sense, what I want you to think about is the fact that the musculoskeletal system is a series of pieces that are stiff, the bones, and really flexible, stretchy things, the muscles, that work together all as a system in order to help you walk. So if you have a muscle on this part of your leg that isn't very strong, it might make it so your knee doesn't really stay in alignment very well over the center of your femur like this, okay? So if this is weak out here, this bone is going to tilt ever so slightly more towards the inside, which then has an impact on the ankle. You can see his foot isn't even really attached anymore. So this foot has to scoot out. A lot of times, if you're bent in one direction at the knee, you end up bent in totally the opposite direction at the ankle, so that you still end up standing completely upright. So that's why some of these, what we call muscular imbalances between different muscle groups throughout your lower leg, can really make a big difference and be really complex to diagnose. Unfortunately, in a lot of the medical world, what we are treating and what we're diagnosing are actually symptoms, not root causes. So just an example, a lot of folks talk to me about knee arthritis. And a lot of people understand that knee arthritis is to some extent inevitable. Almost everyone gets it, especially as they age, and that there isn't a whole lot that can be done to prevent arthritis. And most of those things are true, but that last one, that nothing can be done to prevent arthritis, just isn't true. So a little bit of wear and tear on the joints is natural and normal and completely impossible to prevent. If you are walking, you are going to cause forces to be exerted on your joints, and there's going to be an impact on that, okay? It's like the law of conservation of energy. That stuff doesn't just go nowhere. Those forces are having an impact. But if you strengthen the muscles so that your joints always move in an ideal way, always move smoothly without pain, that wear and tear is less likely to accumulate over time because you're not doing as much damage with every step as you would be with less than ideal ankle movement. And when you take a little model like this, with a foot that just kind of flops around because it doesn't have any muscles attached to it, it's kind of easy to imagine how that kind of wear and tear could build up over time. That's exactly what's happening in your body when it comes to arthritis. So if you have knee pain or ankle pain or foot pain or any kind of pain like that, and somebody has told you it's arthritis, don't assume that that means that you can't do anything about it. There may very well be muscles that you can strengthen that will make that movement more smooth, more controlled, and cause less wear and tear on your joints so that you can keep them longer and not have to have those knee replacements, shoulder replacements, all those replacement parts, or pain-killing pills that a lot of folks rely on for their healthcare. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight into one of the reasons why we physical therapists have a tendency to prescribe certain really simple seeming exercises, but particularly I hope that it helps you understand why the heel raise is an awesome exercise. And if you're not doing them, you maybe should be, and throw in that toe spread for a little bit of extra credit and extra intrinsic foot strengthening. So that's it for episode 2 of the top 5 most prescribed. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you back for part 3. Next time, we're going to be focused on our hips and lower back.